The government is lying to you. They're lying to you on some significant issues, and these lies are costing you money. They're reducing your standard of living and quality of life. If you know these lies, you can turn it around and increase the quality of your life and standard of living.
He's built multi-million-dollar companies. His explosive books on health and wealth have sold over 60 million copies. Now, the Kevin Trudeau Show they don't want you to know.
I have a great show today. I'm going to talk about some insider information, something that I not know about, but something that I know at the highest levels. I've been in the White House. I've been in presidential palaces. I've been in royal palaces. I've talked to the heads of state all around the world. I've been at the Bilderberg meetings. I've been at the Bohemian Grove. I've been to Skull and Bones Island. There are people that I've dealt with that are at the highest levels of power and control in the world. I don't know about this stuff. I really do know this stuff. And there are some basic lies that are being perpetrated and told to you that are costing you money. They're reducing the quality of life and standard of living. If you're living in America, Canada, Europe, wherever, these lies vary by country, but they're significant and they're still important. The first lie is the lie about manufacturing. The lie is that manufacturing in a country is completely irrelevant to the standard of living and quality of life of the residents and citizens of that country. That's the lie. The reason that lie is being put out is because the privileged elite controlling class of the world want manufacturing to go to third world countries for multiple reasons. And the lie is, don't worry, Canada, don't worry, Germany, don't worry, America, that all of your manufacturing is moving to China or India or Brazil or other countries, Indonesia, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Don't worry about that, because the loss of manufacturing is going to have no impact on your economy. It's going to have no impact on how much money people are making. It's going to have no impact on the citizens and residents of that country. It's going to have no impact on the quality of life and standard of living. So don't worry. It's okay that all the factories are closing and all these factories and manufacturing jobs and industry is moving into these other countries. It has no impact on the people of that country. If that was true, why is it that the countries that are getting the manufacturing have a massive increase in quality of life and standard of living for its residents and citizens? Think about that. Look, there is a fact. The quality of life and standard of living of the residents and citizens of a country are in direct proportion to two things: the amount of manufacturing that country has and the amount of natural resources that country has. Saudi Arabia doesn't do a lot of manufacturing, but they have oil, they have natural resources. The quality of life and standard of living of the residents of Saudi Arabia or Dubai is overwhelming. You have Switzerland, they do a lot of manufacturing. The standard of living and quality of life is ridiculously high. You have Norway. They don't do a lot of manufacturing, but again, they have oil. They have natural resources. When you have a combination of natural resources and manufacturing in a country, the income of the residents goes up dramatically. The roads, bridges, and infrastructure are the best in the world. The standard of living and quality of life is better in countries that have manufacturing and natural resources. When you pull out manufacturing from a country, then the quality of life and standard of living of that country, of the citizens and the residents of that country, goes down dramatically. The countries that get the manufacturing, like, look, China had no manufacturing in 1970. The majority of people there were starving. They had no infrastructure. They were almost a third world country. We always said growing up, eat everything on your plate. There are starving people in China. There are people in China are starving. Eat that food. They don't have food. Yeah, because they also didn't have any manufacturing. And why is it today that if you go to China, it is one of the most amazing countries in the world with amazing people? Because they have manufacturing. They're the manufacturing capital of the world. The majority of goods in the world are now manufactured in China. And the standard of living and quality of life and the wealth of that country is due to the fact that they have manufacturing. And the wealth and standard of living and quality of life of people in America, Canada, and other countries that's lost manufacturing has gone down. Fact. The lie is manufacturing doesn't affect your quality of life and standard of living. You need to be aware of this so that you can elect people that are on board and understand that your elected officials have one responsibility, and that is to increase the quality of life and standard of living for you, the citizens of that country. That means if you're in Canada or Germany or whatever, the people that you're electing, their responsibility should be first and foremost to you, the citizens of the country they represent. They don't represent the world. The president of the United States is not president of the world. He should be concerned about the quality of life and standard of living for the citizens and residents of America. Same thing with the Prime Minister of Canada or the Prime Minister in England or wherever in the world. Their responsibility should be for the citizens and the residents of that respective country. So when you're voting and you're electing people, consider that. The reason that they're lying to you is because they're tied into the global cabal, the globalist agenda, which is to move manufacturing into third world countries so that international corporations, multinational corporations, can increase their profits at the expense of the quality of life and standard of living in countries like Canada, the U.S., and the European Union, et cetera. That's the big lie. Manufacturing does make a difference. The second big lie is manufacturing is never coming back to America. Kevin. We can't manufacture in America because if we manufacture a toaster in America, it's going to cost more than if it's manufactured in China or some other country. Therefore, manufacturing is never coming back. Okay, question. Why does a toaster, if manufactured in America, cost more than that exact same toaster from the exact same company manufactured in China? Why is a company manufacturing their toasters in China, and why is it cheaper than if they opened up a plant in America? And the answer is because in America, we have rules for the environment. So if you're going to build a manufacturing facility in America, we have certain rules. China doesn't have those environmental rules. They were given a pass by the World Trade Organization and other groups. So if you were to build a manufacturing plant in America, it's going to cost 2 or 3 times more than if you built that exact same plant in China because the rules are different. Oh, wait a minute. I thought you were concerned about the environment. When you buy something manufactured in China, you are polluting the environment. America has environmental protections. They don't. That's why their air quality is so horrible, and that's why the pollution in their rivers and streams is some of the worst in the world. And that's why Indonesia and China are the biggest polluters of oceans, more so than all the other countries in the world combined. So they can build a manufacturing plant cheaper. And the fact that you're buying stuff from those countries means you are complicit in destroying of the environment. And America or Canada or Germany, if their politicians had any guts, they would say, we're going to prohibit the import of goods that are manufactured in factories that are polluting the environment and are not up to the standards of our country. That's called a fair playing field. Next, why is it cheaper to make that toaster in Indonesia or India or someplace else, Pakistan or China or something? Because the workers over there get paid less. They can exploit children. You can have 14, 15-year-old people working there 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and get a bowl of rice for lunch. You don't have to give them health insurance. There's no unions. We have standards. We protect workers in Canada, Germany, America, etc. When you buy something from those countries, you are complicit in the exploitation of workers. You won't put up with it in America, or if you live in Canada or wherever. You'd say, no, our workers have to have unions, 8-hour shifts, scheduled breaks, health insurance, pensions. We take care of our people here. We're not going to exploit children. We're not going to let our factories put 12, 13, 14-year-old people to work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. We wouldn't do that. But you'll allow them to do it and then buy the product that comes out of that factory. If the politicians had guts, they would say, we're going to prohibit the import of goods that come out of factories that exploit children and don't have the same standards for their workers, that don't have union rules, that don't have health insurance, that don't take care of their workers, they don't have the same standards that we have here. If you want to make something over there, it has to meet the exact same standards that we have by law in this country. That's called a fair playing field, a level playing field. That, my friends, is free, fair trade. What we have now is not. It's an uneven playing field. They have all the advantages, and we're getting screwed because we have stupid politicians or totally corrupt politicians. And the fact is they are corrupt because they're taking money from those companies and governments through backdoor deals. And we know how it is. I was the first person to report how this all worked. And now we see it so blatantly and so obviously. It's ridiculous. And it's costing you money, and it's reducing your quality of life and standard of living. Your government officials are making these deals, putting money in their pockets and taking care of their families at your expense. So manufacturing can come back to your country, bringing wealth with it, if there was fair trade and a level playing field. And the third thing they do, the reason why that toaster is cheaper, is because those countries manipulate their currency. So for example, in America, we have this strong US dollar. So the companies in America can use that strong dollar and buy that in the weak currency of that country, causing the price to be artificially lower. If you get rid of that cheating, and that's exactly what it is, it's cheating, you would have a fair, level playing field. And guess what would happen? You'd have companies going insane because now they're thinking, we actually have to pay for shipping, and it now costs more to make that toaster over there than in this country. You'd have a flood of manufacturing coming back to your respective country, whether it's Canada, America, or wherever, bringing with it prosperity and wealth. That's the fact. Number 3, the third big lie that the government tells you, and I got a stack over here of articles like this much. See them all the time, print them all the time. It's repeated by the media. The media is just a bunch of parrots. They get these press releases, which are nothing more than propaganda coming out of governments around the world. And the propaganda is illegal immigrants are good for the country. They increase prosperity And if a country wants to increase their prosperity and increase the standard of living and quality of life for its citizens and residents, it needs to accept more illegal immigrants. That's the lie. A lie repeated over and over and over and over and over and over again becomes the truth in your own mind. You've been programmed. You're in a trance anyway. You're being hypnotized. If that was true, let's look at some really wealthy countries. Switzerland, one of the highest standard of living and quality of life of its citizens. There's no poor people in Switzerland. There's no homeless camps in Switzerland. There's no homeless. There's no vagrants. There's no ghettos. And there's no illegal immigrants. If illegal immigrants increases prosperity, they should be terrible. They should be very poor people. No. Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Bahrain, they have no illegal immigrants. Zero. The standard of living and quality of life is superlative. The average income is super high. The lowest income is higher than most average incomes. I mean, the poorest person over there is living better than the average person over here. Their roads are like brand new. I drove here today. I'm like avoiding potholes. It's like driving on the surface of the moon. Our infrastructure, which used to be the best in the world, is now terrible. It's not a third world country, but it's horrible. The bridges, the infrastructure, the water. We have poisoned water. We have power grid that goes in and out. They have rolling blackouts all the time now in California. This never happened. We don't have, when I say we, America, but other countries are similar, don't have what Switzerland has or what Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Dubai, these wealthy countries have in terms of an infrastructure. That is quality of life and standard of living. Look, go to a park. The parks are a disaster. The grass is horrible. The kids, things that, swing sets and things are just rusted and falling apart. It's horrible. Go into a public bathroom. It's disgusting. Now, you go over to those countries, those wealthy countries, you walk into a public bathroom, it's like pristine. The parks are pristine. That means quality of life and standard of living for its citizens and residents are fantastic. And the poorest person over there is making more money than the average person over here. They don't have any illegal immigrants. Same thing with Singapore, Japan, and China. If illegal immigrants were so vital and critical to the prosperity of a country where its citizens make a lot of money and have a great quality of life and standard of living, how come China doesn't let any illegal immigrants in? Zero. Same thing with Japan. And they have an amazingly high standard of living and quality of life. Look at countries where there's an influx of illegal immigrants and you will see a reduction in quality of life and standard of living. And this has nothing to do with the individuals themselves coming into that country. In America, we have a lot of illegal immigrants coming in from south of the border, Mexico, Central America, South America. Many of these people are wonderful, hardworking, honest, family-oriented people, and they would be a blessing in anyone's country. There's nothing wrong with the people. Yes, maybe there's some criminals coming in and so forth, but the majority of them are really good people. But here's the problem. When you have somebody in the country illegally, the majority of their families are still back home. And what happens, and this is statistically true, is that person will then work we'll use America as the example. The illegal person will work here. But because they're here illegally and don't have work papers, they work under the table. That means the business pays them in cash. So the business isn't taking out any money for insurance, Social Security, taxes, and the person isn't paying taxes on that income. And the person who's working then takes a large portion of that income, and instead of buying goods and services in America, thus stimulating the economy. They take that money, they go down to Western Union, and they ship it overseas. We see, just look at Western Union's numbers, over the last 20 years, the amount of money that's being wired out of America into these countries where illegal immigrants come from is up 1,000-fold. It's off the charts. That means money is leaving your country, whether it's America or any other country, leaving your country, depleting its economy, making you listening to me or watching, your standard of living and quality of life go down. And then these illegal immigrants send their kids to school and use social services for which they're not paying any money into the system. So your tax money is being used to fund their children's education and the social services for them. They're not putting any money into the system. I've been talking about this for years, and there was just a recent report that showed that when an illegal immigrant comes into America, the government is paying on average $80,000 a year, either in direct payments, free hotels, Visa debit cards, free cell phones, free food, $80,000 a year out of humanitarian reasons to take care of that illegal immigrant. And that money is coming out of your pocket. It's coming out of your tax dollars. They're reducing the quality of life and standard of living for the citizens of the country. Now, I quite frankly happen to have a personal belief, and that is immigration is great. And every country, whether it's Canada or Germany or England or America or whatever, Italy, should open its arms to immigrants who want to immigrate to that country. But there's a little caveat. If you want to come into America legally right now, you have to say, I'm not taking somebody's job. I have a job. Number one. Number two, I'm not going to go on welfare. I'm not going to take money out of the system. I actually have plenty of money in my bank account so I can support myself. And I have no criminal record, so I'm going to be a good citizen. So to me, opening up legal immigration is really the answer. And instead of making it a 2 or 3 year process, make it a 6-month process. And if a person from any country wants to come to America and work a job that many Americans don't want to do, wash dishes, pick strawberries, or whatever, America needs those wonderful, hardworking immigrants. We should be welcoming them open arms through a legal channel. That's just my personal belief. And I think that they can embrace the American dream and go forward. I do think one other little caveat, that they should be required to learn English, and all forms should be in English, because they should, like in every other country, embrace our culture and integrate into American culture and become Americans. My ancestors came from Italy. They learned English. They didn't wave an Italian flag. When they came, they always said, I'm an American, I'm an American, I'm an American, I'm an American. They never said, I'm an Italian American. They said, I'm an American, I'm an American, I'm an American. They learned English, and they did American things. They still kept their culture. We still ate cannolis and raviolis, and we had ricotta cheesecake, and we did Italian things, for sure. But my mom said, you're an American. You're learning English. I wasn't taught Italian because my mom said, you're an American. That means the language of this country is English. We have people coming into our country 3 generations, and none of them speak a word of English. When I was away, I was talking to this guy who lived in America, 3rd generation, didn't speak a word of English. And I said, why is it you've lived in America 20 years, but you don't speak a word of English? And your parents were born in America, but don't speak a word of English. And their parents lived most of their life in America, but immigrated, but they don't speak a word. How come none of you speak English? And he said, America is going to become Spanish speaking. And he was just adamant, he goes, I'm not an American. And he didn't want to be an American. He just wanted to live in America. Get citizenship, but never call himself an American. I mean, that was his choice. But the point is, if America or any other country wants to prosper, in my opinion, open the doors to legal immigration so that we can increase the number of people that are coming in legally. And I think it will make our country stronger, because immigration or increase in population makes a country stronger. Because in America we have a much lower birth rate than ever before, America and other countries need an increase in population via immigration, make it legal. But immigration doesn't help, it hurts. Legal immigration absolutely helps. Last big lie. I hope I don't get banned for this. Last big lie. Follow the science. And I'm not going to talk about some of the controversial topics that I do talk about on Rumble, which is another platform without censorship. But I am going to talk about the lie of follow the science. The government says follow the science. So let's talk about a few things. Fluoride being put in the drinking water in America. Americans say there is no science to suggest that fluoride in the water is harmful. Follow the science. Okay. Why is it then that in Switzerland and virtually every country in the world, their science says that fluoride in the water is harmful to your health? Which science are we following? Think about it. Follow the science. Their scientists around the world said, the science says fluoride in drinking water is harmful to your health, therefore it's banned. America says, follow the science. There is no scientific evidence that fluoride in drinking water is harmful to your health. Follow the science? What science? Whose science? Which science? The government says follow the science. Let me tell you what they're really saying. Shut up and just do what we say. We're going to give you the science and the scientists that will agree with our position, and our position is there so that multinational corporations can make outrageous amounts of money at the expense of American citizens. That's what it comes down to. Follow the science. There is no science. By the way, follow the science. There is no scientific evidence anywhere in the world that drinking water that has fluoride in it does anything to reduce tooth decay or helps your teeth. There is science that says painting fluoride on your teeth reduces tooth decay. Yes, there's science for that. But there's no scientific evidence or study that says drinking water with fluoride in it will help reduce tooth decay. Follow the science. No, what they're saying is shut up and do what we tell you. Follow the science. There's no scientific evidence that red dye number 3 or whatever it is has any harmful effect on your health. There's no science. Follow the science. Why is it that scientists all over the world say we have scientific evidence that proves that this red dye causes all types of health problems, therefore it is banned as an illegal toxic substance and it can't be put in food or consumed by humans? All over the world, except America. Follow the science. What science? Whose science? When I said in my book, Natural Cures, They Don't Want You to Know About, which was #1 on the New York Times bestselling list 26 weeks in a row, number bestselling book in all of America. When I said talc that's in baby powder causes cancer and shouldn't be put on your skin, I was on NBC the Today Show with Matt Lauer, and he goes, "Where's the science behind that?" And I said, "Matt, there's a stack of research done around the world that shows that." "Well, how come the scientists don't say that?" Because saying so will cost Johnson & Johnson, that makes the baby powder, billions of dollars in lost market value of their company. Follow the money, man. Open up your eyes. Come out of your trance. Wake up. This isn't fantasy land. And welcome to Fantasy Island. No, this is real life, man. Follow the science. Whose science? Follow the science. Vitamin E, scientifically proven, does nothing to help reduce blood pressure or cholesterol or improve circulation. We've tested it. Kevin, follow the science. Whose science? Here are the research reports. I have a question. Who paid for this research? Oh, the pharmaceutical companies that make heparin and the other blood thinners that would all go bankrupt if it was proven that vitamin E did the same or better job than the patented drug heparin and other blood thinners. So they paid for the research. Let's look at the research. You said that vitamin E has no effect on improving circulation or thinning blood or cholesterol or high blood pressure. Yeah. Well, that's funny. You didn't test vitamin E. Oh, yes, we did. We tested D-alpha tocopherol vitamin E. That's not vitamin E. That's a synthetic chemical made in the laboratory that you call vitamin E. Vitamin E has mixed tocopherols and also tocotrienols in real life, and it's always bound with psyllium. Why don't you try that one and see what happens? No, we're not going to do that. Because if you did, you'd find out that it works better than heparin. See, whose science are you following? Follow the science. The science? Science has always been wrong. How do we know this? Let's look at the drugs approved by the Food and Drug Administration in America. Companies spend hundreds of millions of dollars researching and testing a drug, doing all these clinical trials, sending this all to the FDA for approval. The FDA looks at all of the science. This is the science, everybody. And the FDA says, we've studied the science. We're following the science. And the science has proven that this drug, Vioxx, is safe. The science says so. It's safe. And it's effective at reducing pain. That's the science. We follow the science. So they approved the drug. A few years later, 200,000 people die that took Vioxx. And in studies, it was determined that, in fact, Vioxx was not safe. And in further study, it was also determined that Vioxx didn't reduce pain any more than a normal Tylenol. So either the FDA lied when they said it was safe and effective, or they're completely incompetent, or they're corrupt. I can tell you from firsthand experience, it's a combination of all three. They lie, they're stupid, and they're corrupt. The point is, you can't believe the science, because every time a scientific study comes out and says, don't eat eggs, it'll raise your cholesterol. The next study comes out and says, it has been proven that eating 4 eggs a day reduces cholesterol. Which science are you going to follow? I remember one of the funniest studies I've ever seen, and it was written up in USA Today, and it said, study proves that sugar consumption has no effect on a child's hyperactivity. And I read that headline and go, that's insane. Everybody in the world knows if you have a little sugar, it increases your activity. I mean, everybody knows that. I remember one time I had 3 of my friends. We're in Ojai, California. It was a rainy, dreary day. We're all kind of like mulling around the house, in a blah down mood. And I said, hey, why don't we take a drive to Ventura? It's only 20 minutes away, and get some Krispy Kreme donuts. And they all said, okay, fine. So we got in the car, drove to the Krispy Kreme donut store in Ventura. And on the 20-minute drive there, none of us said a word because it was this rainy, gloomy, cold, wet day. It was just blah. We were all kind of down in the dumps. We got to Krispy Kreme, went through the drive-thru. I ordered 2 dozen donuts. We bring them in the car. We all grab a donut, start eating. And as we start driving home, within 3 or 4 minutes, we're singing, we're dancing. We're like, yeah, life is great, man. And we said, the miracle of the sugar drug. Yeah, man, this is great. So I'm reading this, says sugar has no effect on hyperactivity. I'm thinking, this is insane. So I read the article, and it just says, it's been proven now that it's a myth. Sugar does not increase hyperactivity in children. It's a myth. And I'm like, I need to see the study. So I saw the study. The study was conducted with 8 children. That's number 1. 8. And here's what the study did. This is unbelievable. This is the science that the government is telling you to follow. They took these 8 kids and they gave them, and I'm making up the exact numbers, but you get the point. They took these 8 kids and they gave them 10 candy bars to eat. 10. Which means these kids were jacked up on sugar. And they monitored their activity level. Then they gave them 2 more candy bars. And they monitored their activity level. And they noted eating 2 additional candy bars did not change their activity level. Therefore, sugar doesn't change a child's activity, hyperactivity. Well, no, they were so jacked up on sugar, it couldn't get any higher. This is the science that the government is telling you to follow. And here's the point. If you blindly listen to the news media or what's written on the internet, you're a stupid fool. If you blindly listen to and follow what the government tells you or science tells you, you're an imbecile, an ignoramus, and a moron. Because this stuff is nothing but propaganda put on you and financed by the pharmaceutical companies or the food industry so that they can increase their own profits. If you come out of your trance and actually learn this material, your life will be better. Folks, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Hey, I hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure you share, like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you also check me out on all my social media platforms and go to kevintrudeau.com for a lot of free information that you can get that'll improve the quality of your life and your standard of living. Kevin Trudeau here. Thanks for watching. Until next time.